Sometimes statement may not be clear, but there is always a deeper understanding. It is not just about the who said what. The whens, hows, and wheres are equally important. Join me on a whole new journey in the conversation with Augustus as I bring you discussions from religion to politics, health to economy, humanity to social activities, among many others. Conversation with Augustus knows no foreign borders. The show comes to you every Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. GMT on our YouTube channel Conversation with Augustus and on Radio Angelus www.radioangelus.com. This program is sponsored by Safe Life Experience Consult Limited. Contact them for all your travel and tour needs, as well as your events. Welcome to the Conversation with Augustus, and today we are talking about Caritas Ghana's assistance during this COVID period. You would agree with me that the year 2020 and early 2021 has not been easy for many government, businesses, families, and also for those involved in social assistance. And the Catholic Church, as God commanded us to be of assistance to each other, is not only by giving them the word of God, but also going to them physically. And this is what Caritas Ghana is actually doing to help lessen the burdens and then the effects of COVID-19 on the people. To discuss this topic is the Executive Secretary of the Caritas Ghana, Mr. Samuel Zan Akologo. But before we dive into the conversation, please take a moment to subscribe to Conversation with Augustus and also click on the notification bell just beside it on our YouTube channel so that whenever we post new videos, you would have access to it. So you're most welcome to the Conversation with Augustus.
Thank you very much, Augustus.
And how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, and thanks for the opportunity to have this important conversation, beginning with your beautiful intro, which sets the stage that the mission of charity is an intrinsic part of the mission of the Catholic Church. So it is not something that is extra. It is very much, it's a constitutive part of the mission of the Church. In fact, if you like, at the same level as celebrating the sacraments and the word.
Before we dive into the conversation, can you tell us what's the vision for Caritas Ghana?
Okay, so basically, our vision, to paraphrase it, is to, as an implementing arm of the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, is to help the leadership of the Catholic Church, that is the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, to better realize their service of charity, their mission of charity, their response to the needy and the vulnerable, either direct services or speaking on their behalf. So basically, to paraphrase, instead of read the vision, this is what we are here to do. And that is why our specific mission is inspired by 1 Timothy 6:18, which talks about good works, charity, and service.
I would want to ask you, During this period, your outfit, Caritas Ghana, has actually been at the forefront, making sure that people have access to basic social amenities so that they can move on, because COVID has actually been difficult period for a lot of people. I would want to ask you, how have you been able to go about this assistance?
Yes, of course. We are a charity agency of the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference. So we begin with the support of the church itself. So the local church, that is the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference themselves, providing the necessary resources, both human and material, to support our work, but also the other agencies of the church externally. So for example, we receive direct support from Caritas International, which is the global confederation based in Rome. But also we have received direct support from the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development during this period to intervene. So that's directly from the church. Of course, we have other development partnerships with the what do you call it, the German Development Corporation and other development agencies who have supported our work.
Okay, so getting these bodies coming to the assistance of the church in making sure that the church actually go out to help the needy in society, I would want to find out from you, how do you go about implementing or sharing these items or assistance to the beneficiaries?
Our first basic approach is to work with our constituent bodies. I'm using a general term, but what that means is Caritas Ghana exists as a national body to facilitate the work that is being done at the level of the dioceses and archdioceses. So they are the archdioceses and dioceses, 20 of them across the country, are the direct implementing agencies. So our role is to facilitate, enable, and empower them to do the work. So that's what we do. Of course, at the national office, we also do direct interventions because some of the issues like advocacy on behalf of the poor, direct engagement with the government and other institutions, we have to do it directly with staff at the national office. So that is the basic approach. I can go into detail later if that is needed.
Okay, we'll get there, but after this question, we can just go into details. Are you saying that
Okay.
when you use the word constituents, are you referring to Catholics as the main first of beneficiaries when it comes to Caritas giving assistance?
No, sorry for that misunderstanding. I use constituents in terms of structures,
Okay.
the organizational structures that we use to deliver our services. Let me put it out there very quickly that in terms of beneficiaries, in terms of the principals, the stakeholders that we deal with, in fact, in many places, there are more non-Catholics. You know, if you look
It's not
at
just for
all
it's not
those,
for Catholics. It's
yeah,
for everyone.
yeah, we serve humanity. Caritas exists to serve humanity. Its identity is ecclesial, its ownership is the Catholic Church, but the services are for everybody, the entire humanity.
We can now dive into it. How do you go about it with the diocese from the national level to diocese, and then make sure that it gets to down to the people?
You know, our principal target as Caritas are the poor, the needy, the excluded, the vulnerable. These are the principal targets. They are better identified and known at the local level. So where the needs are for direct services, like for food, like for shelter, those who have been displaced, then we work with the dioceses. I give you an example. During the lockdown, the early days of COVID-19 in Ghana, the lockdown, there were several people displaced. You know, lockdown, don't go out, but already some people do not have homes. So they were on the streets, and indeed they used to survive on the goodness of people and society, active society moving and attending to them. Now that everybody was locked down, it means that they had nobody to attend to them. And so, for example, in Kumasi, in Accra and central region, that is Cape Coast Archdiocese, because Kasua was very much affected. We had to provide food and shelter to our data showed 13,500 displaced and vulnerable people who were on the streets. We did this through the three dioceses. So that's a concrete example. Sometimes there are just, general services. So for example, we had to deliver over 100,000 PPEs to people who could not afford them, and also deprived rural clinics where these things were not available. We had to send them via the 20 archdioceses and dioceses to deliver this thing. So we use our own structures to provide the services, but we ensure it does reach everybody. Last example, we also realized that during the lockdown and even after, this, in the slums of Accra, principally the area called Agbogloshi, and Medina and Nima areas, there were families who, even though they were not on the streets, but they were so impoverished by the situation that they could not find food. So we had to find a way of direct cash transfers to them. And as I speak, we were able to reach up to 2,474 poor households that could not afford food. But at least we could reach them directly with cash transfers.
When you say the needy or the poor, if you could just throw a bit of light on it for us, how do you identify someone to be poor? And how do you identify someone to be needy? Because I know in Africa, sometimes when you go to the slums areas, you may be surprised to have see people who have about 65 inches TV in their rooms. You may be surprised to see that people have a big refrigerator, whereby someone who may be living somewhere in, let's say, East Legon, may not have such a thing in his or her room. So how do you identify someone to be poor, and how in the selection process to be able to help that, oh, this person is actually poor, this person actually needs this, and so on. So how are you able to do these calculations and make sure that it gets to the right people?
Fantastic, Augustus. You demonstrate very in-depth knowledge of the society as it's organized here in Ghana. There's no time to talk about that, but let me tell you very quickly that we do know that in the slums, and especially in places like Agbogloshi, they are really, faceless business tycoons who are exploiting some of the youths and some of the, especially the street hawkers and even sex workers in those areas. So yes, it's not to say that everybody in the slum is poor. There are other agents there who have money. So thank you for saying that. But remember, I said earlier that the strength of Caritas is that we are community-based. We are not just a national structure. Indeed, we are church to some extent, because we can use the structures of our church, the parishes, the outstations, and then also the diocesan development or Caritas organizations. They are on the ground and they help identify these people. Of course, if you take what we did in Accra, the Caritas directors, and I recall they had permission to be out there. Father George Comensa, maybe you know him.
Yeah.
Another priest from Central Cape Coast Archdiocese is called Father Stephen Amuajesi. And then
I do know him. I know him as well. Very well.
yes, and then Kumasi, you know, they were working with this nun called Sister Umo. I forgot her first name. Look, they were on the street talking about identifying the poor. I myself was in Kumasi and they took me to the area called the Sofo line.
Yeah.
And the misery of the people. Look, they were living under the bridge, that huge crossover, you know, and thank God the state agencies recognized the work that the church was doing, allowed us, in spite of the restrictions, to go onto the street. So you could see it was not difficult to identify those who are poor. So that's in specific terms. But of course, in general terms, we do know that when we talk about those who are poor, as I said earlier, we're really talking about different categorizations. Okay, in some places you might just be talking about people who have certain vulnerabilities, those who have mental, who are living with mental challenges and are on the streets. You may be talking about, you know, the Kayaye who were completely displaced, you know, displaced in the cities. You may be talking about, you know, single parents, or, you know, women who, with children who have nobody to look after them, or street children. So I could go on, but the important thing is our targeting is really well grounded based on experience and knowledge of the situation. So it's not something that is so general. Our people are on the ground, they work with these people, with these people in society.
So you've seen the areas which needs attention. I want to ask, should we wait for such a pandemic or such a tragedy to see the many shortcomings, the many faults that our country faces before agencies come in to actually assist?
In fact, that would be very reactive, and sometimes it's coming a bit too late. That is why, at the level of the church, it is important that and that is what the Pope has asked for, that the church should have organized service of charity, and that the service of charity should not just be ad hoc and something an add-on to the church's work when it is called upon, but it should be deliberately and purposefully planned, with all the structures, with all the resources, with all the policies and intention to deliver. Thank God, the Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference, they are on the move. You never get a perfect situation, but now there is Caritas Ghana across. Some dioceses still do not have, but of course, gradually we are getting there. The second thing to say is that is why the church must also be doing advocacy towards government. And during this COVID, we were not just responding to direct services, okay? We were also advocating towards government to put aright the social protection policies.
Okay.
And because what COVID taught us was that it was a wake-up call to you know, to account for our social protection policies. And then we started to do ad hoc. But if these things are there in terms of policy articulation, policy intention, then you are better able to deliver it. And so, as for humanitarian crises, you know, whether you like it or not, they are with us, and we need to plan towards them. In my own experience, and very quickly, I think that they also require a kind of humanitarian approach that uses innovations and empowerment for sustainability of the people who are directly affected. This is something that we need to begin to explore. So, for example, you see, the time of just normally responding to the immediate needs of people who have been displaced without thinking about tomorrow, I think that is anachronistic. That is an old-fashioned way of, humanitarian intervention. We need to think innovatively. So, for example, we had the Kaya displaced here. Yes, at that time they needed food. At that time they needed safe shelter, because already you will say, where were they staying? They used to stay when society was active. They will sleep on verandas and etc. But so you can respond to that, but think their future. So what we did was we started to resettle some of this Kaya and give them alternative skills training. As I speak, in partnership with Sunyani Diocese, there is, maybe you have heard of Pax Garments.
Yeah,
Pax Garments is owned by Sunyani Diocese. They make garments, and they teach young people. And so we have arranged with them to send some of these young people there within 6 months to learn very quickly how to to make different kinds of things, even including face masks. And we are hoping that that will help them to stay. A second example is what we did in Tamale. We have been able to set up a plastic recycling plant in Tamale. And the purpose was not, yes, a business approach, but it was not business to create profit for Caritas Ghana, but it was to create opportunity to resettle the Kaya back in their own communities with something to do. So as I speak, 20 of them are gainfully employed at the plastic recycling, gathering plastics, and cleaning them and processing them for economy. And in this way, they will stay. Another 50, are not employed on daily basis, but are delivering plastics at the plant. And they have something to do. And while doing that, they are also saving the environment. If you come to, last week, I was there at the inauguration, and we had taken out already 7,500 kilograms, that is 7.5 tons of plastics from the streets and gutters of Accra, of Tamale.
That's huge.
And yet, yes, and yet providing gainful employment for you. So those are the kind of things, if you like, call it social impact investing. So it is a business approach that targets the vulnerable section, segment of society, but that also creates sustainability measures, because it is not just giving and giving. And there is empowerment when people feel that they can work. Work has dignity beyond just the income that they get. So anyway, I could go on and on, but so that's what COVID, the challenges of COVID has taught me personally, and as the head of an organization, a humanitarian agency. And I think that we need to continue to push these frontiers.
In fact, you've answered it in a way that was supposed to be my last question for you when it comes to the challenges facing. How have you been able to overcome challenges and lessons learned from COVID-19? But you've answered them. So I would jump that question and come to this one. Roughly, can you put a number to it? How many people have you been able to help so far since last year up to today?
So specifically, I put a figure around those that have been helped through as part of the COVID-19 interventions.
Okay.
Yeah. So direct services, as I said, about 85,000 direct beneficiaries, but also 5 million indirect beneficiaries in terms of targeting them for education, awareness, social behavior change, how they will conduct themselves to protect, to safeguard themselves against this disease. So yes, so we're talking about direct beneficiaries in the threshold of 85,000, another 5 million indirect beneficiaries, and that is for services. But of course, as I said, we have also done a lot of advocacy towards government to make sure that government address the situation of vulnerabilities during the pandemic, like providing access, sanitation facilities at marketplaces. We did that across 10 regions, and the figures could be much higher.
Okay. So after COVID, what happens?
After COVID, it depends on what you mean by after COVID. Maybe you are a young man, so you are very optimistic, and not that I am pessimistic, but you see, when I hear people talk about after COVID, then it gives me the impression that people are very anxious to return to the what is called the status quo, to the the so-called normal. Augustus, I think that has eluded us. There is not going to be a return to what it was before COVID. COVID has changed the world dramatically, socially, economically, culturally, etc. What remains for us is to see how we can also then reconstruct a new world, a new society, yes, a new society. And I like it beautifully put in Pope Francis' Fratelli Tutti, a new solidarity and social relations. We need to construct that and forget about thinking of, oh, when will it be over? So we shall return to our old ways. I don't believe in that. I believe in rebuilding a new society that is better, that is inclusive, that maybe will change the old ways that has excluded a lot of people, that has not addressed the important challenges of society, but only attended to the welfare of a few. So for me, it is about a rethinking, a soul searching process of how we can make society better. And this society, we have to rebuild it.
As they normally call him in Ghana, Uncle Zan Akologo Samuel, thank you so much for sharing with us what Caritas Ghana has been doing this period of COVID-19 pandemic, and sharing with us makes me, in fact, the last words, we are so optimistic that we want to go back to our old ways of life without masks, but we should be patient. If we would get there, we would have to make sure that this pandemic is actually dealt with very well. And he has made us know that Caritas Ghana is not only during this COVID-19 period that they are going to the assistance of people, but it has been something they've been doing all this while. And the program has been Conversation with Augustus. Please, this program comes to you this Wednesday and every Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. I'm using Ghana time, but internationally 18:15 GMT. That's the time, and it's aired on our YouTube channel Conversation with Augustus, and also on Radio Angelus, www.radioangelus.com. My name is Augustus Akins, and I've been speaking to Mr. Samuel Zan Akologo, the Executive Secretary for Caritas Ghana. So thank you so much for your time and sharing with us.
I thank you, Augustus, for this opportunity to reach out to the world and society.
Sometimes statement may not be clear, but there is always a deeper understanding. It is not just about the who said what. The whens, hows, and wheres are equally important. Join me on a whole new journey in the Conversation with Augustus as I bring you discussions from religion to politics. health to economy, humanity to social activities, among many others. Conversation with Augustus knows no foreign borders. The show comes to you every Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. GMT on our YouTube channel Conversation with Augustus and on Radio Angelus, www.radioangelus.com. This program was sponsored by Safe Life Experience Consult Limited. Contact them for all your travel and tour needs, as well as your events.